So I'm going to do the last 3 questions for game 4 from Prep Test 67. Let's finish this off here. So 21, if 3 subzones are designated for each use. Okay, so we're told in the beginning that there's a maximum of 3 per use, but that doesn't mean that we actually have to have 3 per use, except for this question. So if 3 are designated for each use, then we have to find space for them. So we have zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. Zone 1 can't have any retail, so we're going to have to split the retail up between zone 2 and zone 3. So I'm going to put 2 retail in zone 2 and 1 retail in zone 3. And I actually want to note that zone 2 and zone 3 are logically equivalent to one another. So zone 1 has this distinguishing feature of not being allowed to have retail. That's actually mentioned in a specific rule. But zone 2 and zone 3 are both wildcards in terms of positions. What I could do as well is I could say, okay, well, I have to split up. Oh, that's interesting. I automatically split up the retail because having 3 retail is problematic, right? If we have 3 retail, then we can't have any industrial. If we have 3 retail, we can't have any housing either. So I would have to take housing and industrial out of that spot. So I did that without explaining it. But that is really the reason why. So the reason I'm splitting up the retail isn't just because we have none in zone 1. That's the reason that I have to have 2 of them together. But the reason I'm splitting them up is because if I have 3 retail together, so let's say I put 3 retail in zone 3, I can't have housing there, I can't have industrial there. Housing and industrial can't go together, so I'd have to have one zone that's completely housing and one that's completely industrial, but I can't have a zone that's completely housing. I can have a maximum of 2 housing per zone. So that's why I run into problems with putting the 3 retail together. So I have to split them up in order to make that work. So if I have 2 retail, I can't have any housing. So I can't have any housing here. So that means that I'm going to have housing in zone 1 and housing in zone 3. And since I have housing in zone 1 and housing in zone 3, that means I can't have any industrial in those ones. So all the industrials would have to go in zone 2. So here I could have 1 or 2 housing, and here 1 or 2 housing, depending on what I have in zone 3. Here I actually could have 1 to 2 retail and 1 to 2, or sorry, the one with housing has to have just 1 retail, and then the 3 industrial would have to go with the 2 retail. So this has to be stuck together, and these guys have to be stuck together. They could switch between zone 2 and 3 because those are interchangeable. And then whether we have 2 housing in zone 3 or 2 housing in zone 1, that's also a question. So my options, my could be trues, are going to come up with that variation. All right, so exactly 1 subzone in zone 3 is designated for industrial and 1 is designated for retail. That's not going to be allowed. We have to put all of the industrial together. So we have to have 3 industrial together. Okay, so A is out. B, exactly 2 subzones in zone 2 are designated for housing. We could actually have that. Yeah, that's possible, right? Because we could switch these 2 and then we could choose 2 housing. So I'll just show you that. So this is one way that you could kind of double check it once you've done your initial work. So we've got 2 for housing. So 2 housing here, 1 housing here. If we have any housing, then we have a maximum of 1 retail. So that's where our 1 retail is. Then we would put our 3 industrial over here, and the remaining 2 retail over there as well. So in total we have our 3 housing, 3 retail, and 3 industrial. B is the correct answer. All right, question 22. All right, if one subzone in each of the zones is designated for industrial use, then which one of the following is allowed? So if I have industrial, then I have a maximum of 2 retail. Here we have 0 retail, but here we would have max 2 retail. And then if we have industrial, we have no housing. So we're gonna have 0 housing for the whole scenario. All right, so what is allowed? More subzones for retail in zone 2 than zone 3. Yeah, so we could have 2 here and 1 here. So that's allowed. So A is the correct answer. I'll just go over the other ones just in case maybe you had chosen one of those and I can help explain it. So B, a subzone in one of the zones is designated for housing, so we can't have that, right? Because of Rule 4. C, exactly 2 subzones are designated in zone 1. That's not going to work because we can't have any retail and we can't have any housing. D, exactly 3 subzones each are designated in zone 2 and zone 3. So one of them can have 3 subzones. It could have industrial and 2 retail, but the other one would then have 1 industrial and 1 retail. So because we can't have housing, we can't add any more, and we have a maximum of 3 total for each of them. And we've already been told in the question specific condition that we have 1 industrial per zone, or per, 1 industrial subzone per zone. And E, exactly 4 subzones are designated in zone 3. So in this scenario, we can't have 4 subzones in any of the zones because the maximum we'd be able to have is 1 industrial and 2 retail. So 3 would be the maximum subzones per zone. Yeah, saying subzones per zone and subzones and zones over and over and over again starts to feel a bit like a tongue twister. But yeah, that's what we get. Let me know if you want any clarification on that. And we're down to the last question. So if 3 subzones in all are designated for retail, all right, so we're gonna have 3 retail in total, and we have zone 2, there's 1 for housing. So zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. Zone 2, we have 1 housing. So now we have to place our 3 retail. So here we have no retail. So we have to split up these 3 retail between zone 2 and zone 3. If we have housing, then we have a maximum of 1 retail. So here we could have 0 retail or 1 retail. And here we could have, we'd have to have at least 2 retail, right? If we have 1 retail there. And if we have 0 retail in zone 2, then we would have all 3 retail in zone 3. Okay, so which one of the following is allowed? 2 subzones in zone 1 are designated for housing. I mean, there's no reason why not. So we have a maximum of 2 housing subzones per zone, and we have 1 housing in zone 2. We can't have retail in zone 1, but it doesn't matter. So A, yeah, A looks good to me. B, why not B? More subzones for industrial in zone 2 than zone 3. Well, we can't have any industrial in zone 2. Now, it's possible that we could have equal number, right? We could have 0 and 0, but we can't have 0 be more than another number. D, the same number of subzones are designated for retail use in Zone 2 and Zone 3. Yeah, that's not going to work because we have 3 total, so it's an odd number. Yeah, we're going to have to split them up. We can't have like 1.5 subzones, so we can't have the same number. Then E, a subzone in Zone 3 is designated for housing. So that's not going to work because we have a minimum of 2 retail in Zone 3 in order to fit 3 retail in overall. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions about that. And yeah, also let me know what video you'd like me to do next.